Well, we are here in the workshop today and we have to get something done before some baby snakes hatch. And that involves a lot of baby bins. I've been giving hints in a lot of my videos that I have baby snakes hatching in around a month, and well, I don't have anywhere to put them. So I bought 30 baby bins, a bunch of PVC, and we're going to build them a home. I will also be going through the step-by-step process on how I built them and eventually a cost breakdown on see how expensive this actually was compared to buying one off of the internet or Facebook Marketplace, because Facebook Marketplace is cheap. For this build, you are going to want 30 of these Freedom Breeder tubs. Now, these are more expensive than a tub you would find just at Home Depot or any other normal place where you buy tubs, but these are specifically designed for snakes, so they already have their holes pre-drilled. They have an area where you can put a deli cup, and usually when you buy a tub, you're not able to buy a tub this thin where you can put multiple baby snakes right next to each other. These are the FB5 tub variants. You can also get them in gray, but I like semi-clear so I can see them when I'm just walking around. You're also going to want screws. I'm currently using inch-long screws, but I will end up moving on to 1.5-inch long screws because that's what I have in stock here. Now, the big mamma jamma, this is PVC board. I get mine from Piedmont Plastics, and I was able to have them cut it, so I didn't have to cut it myself. It was $75 for the 9 boards that I had cut, and well, this is not all that I cut. There are a bunch more boards that are going to be used for other projects, so you have to stay tuned for that. You're also going to need some sort of heat tape and thermostat. Because these babies aren't coming for a while, I'm going to get my thermostat at a reptile convention. I would suggest that so you have to dodge the shipping fees. If you're building exactly what you see in this video, you are going to need 4 foot of 12-inch tape and 2 feet of this 6-inch tape. Now, with this enclosure, I am doing a back panel heat. So instead of like in old videos where I wind it throughout the enclosure and gives it bottom heat, I'm gonna put all the heat on the back panel and just screw it in so it gives heat to everything. Now, this does require 3 cords and everything that requires me to actually be able to put them on here. I would suggest a herpstat for all your 3 cords so you can have varying heat depending on the animal. I'm going to have boa constrictors, California king snakes, and king snakes eventually in the same rack, so being able to separate out the heat and give different animals different heat is going to be very helpful for babies. When I built one of my original racks, it was super janky and these did not slide in very well. On the second rack system that I built, I put a piece of cardboard over top each one of these bins to give it enough height where it can safely move in and out without having issue of getting stuck. And it worked really well, but the problem was baby snakes could get out of it. I put one of my small Mexican black king snakes in there just as a temporary thing so I could clean its enclosure, and well, it disappeared and I had found it a few minutes later outside of the tub. So I did a simple 3D model that will be able to sit right on top of it, and it's thinner than a traditional piece of cardboard, so no babies will be able to get out, but I can slide it in and out without any problems. And also, if you're fancy like me and want it to move around, you can buy some wheels. With that being said, let's get started. Alright, we have our first layer down here, and one of the things I'm going to do to this project is actually build it upside down. The last project that I did, I built it from bottom to top, and unfortunately that doesn't work very well because this is what it's going to look like when it's fully built, besides obviously having many more bins in here. And what I did is I purposely had them cut this piece, all the side pieces, longer, so the little gap that is made from these 3D printed pieces, or in some people's case cardboard, this little gap adds up for the 5 layers that we have, so it's going to raise up a little bit further And if this part was on top, it would show up and it would be pretty ugly. I would need to cut it with like an angle grinder or something like that. And well, it didn't come out too pretty on my old one that I built last year. So we're gonna do it the opposite way, so if any ugly pieces like I miss when I cut this, it's gonna be on the bottom and it's gonna look pretty on the top. So with that being said, I'm going to take all of this off, line up my first drill points, drill them in, and then we are ready to keep stacking. Alright, we are done with the actual hard part. I'm making every single bin fit properly. They do fit properly. There's one tight spot in one of the rows. I can fix it, but I don't really care. If it's a little tight, who cares? Next, we actually have to start wiring everything up on the back panel. Alright, so we have our piece. I did cut off the edge because I want to know exactly how much I need to actually cover with heat tape. But now we have our heat tape pieces. This is really, really easy to set up, and I'm going to show you right now. Alright, what you're going to need to wire this up is your cable that you should have bought from the company that you bought these guys from. You're going to need some aluminum tape to actually stick it on there. And obviously, because we're going to have 3 different sections, we do have 3 cords here. But we're going to set up one to show you, and then I'll do the other 2. Right now, these are 2-foot sections. They came in a giant 4-foot roll. I cut them in half, and unfortunately, I can't cut them closer to about right here where the edge of this board would be because of these black dots. I cannot go further than that in terms of the section, because if I do that, it can cause electrical issues and potentially harm me, the animals, or set the house on fire. And we don't want that, so we'll just be able to curl this up over the bottom here, but we're going to start wiring these guys up. Alright, so to actually install them, you have your 2 little circle pieces right here. You're going to attach them to each end of the copper piece, but there is a slit in between the copper piece and the back panel. I can't show you right here because I need 2 fingers for it, but I'm going to get this inside and you can see it. Alright, we have it in or it's going to fall out. But it does go in between. It does take a little bit of finagling to do it, but first we have to punch a hole in this. Alright, so with our hole puncher, we're going to go up just a little bit, just enough where it's not on the direct edge of this metal piece, and we're going to put a hole. We're going to put a hole in each edge we have our metal pieces in. Now that we have those hole punched, we have our 2 little circle guys. These are going to go inside to this little circle part where you can't see the actual metal part. They're going to come with these little pieces right here. You're going to put one over the top, threading through electrical cord, and one underneath. So you're going to put them in like that. There is a way or a gadget to hammer them together so they don't come apart, but I don't have that gadget. I just have a hammer, so we're just going to yeah, that's safe. And then some pliers to finish squishing it down. And then we're going to repeat it for the other side. Once you have both sides crimped, you're going to come in with these pieces of tape that stop any electrical current from getting out. You're going to want to place them on the metal area of which you punched a hole and put that through, but also far enough where there's no external metal showing. And then you're going to fold it over and squish it down. Well, making it even was not perfect, but there are no exposed metal pieces. We are also going to put some aluminum tape on it when we actually tape it to this. So if there's a tiny bit showing, just make sure this covers it all the way around. Next, we do it for this one and then the other 2 that I have. Alright, we have all 3 nice and hooked up to power. So now we are going to place them where I want them. Now, originally I was going to have all of the cables, or not. Originally I was going to have all the cables coming out the top, but because it hangs over so much, we're going to tuck it underneath the bottom because this should be flush to the bottom. We're going to tuck it up underneath. We're going to tape it all down so nothing can get into it or rough it up or break it. And then we'll just plumb it straight back up with the actual cord, back up the back, and plug it into the thermostat. So we're going to take these two pieces, set them to the side for now, and we're going to take this aluminum heat tape, go up and down the sides of them, taping it down so it not only it sticks, but it is also a little bit more electrically safe than just like normal duct tape. I am starting to really enjoy the large area that I have to be able to do projects because I didn't have to take this guy off. I just moved it over. Now we have our plumbed piece right here, our electrically plumbed piece. We're going to flip it over. We're going to place it on top of here. Well, it looks really good. It looks to fit quite nicely. Why are we not? There we go. All right. So we are even on every edge, but before I screw this on down, we're going to cut off these edges right here to make them a little bit shorter because there's so much electrical stuff. I don't want to accidentally nick a wire, then eventually cause a house fire. And we're just going to clap our hands and this will be cut. All right, we have the edges cut. That was a mess because I'm not carrying this thing upstairs and it's plastic and not sawdust and it sticks to everything. I think, yeah, it's still on my arms and whatever, even though I used a leaf blower to blow myself off. But now we have the problem of all of this. Now, what you could do is you could go flat like this, but unfortunately I have two tortoises that like to crawl underneath things and get into a lot of things. So I'm going to flip it around back here and flip it up like this and tape it down. All right, now that we have everything nice and taped up here, it is as curved as you can get it. You know, I'm not trying to push it where it's so tight, you know, I might end up again causing a breakage of some point. Now, when you are screwing it to the actual main piece, be careful of this heat mat. You do not want to puncture it. I'm just going to go around the edges here to actually screw them down. I have one spot where I can put a screw on the bottom, but I'm really not going to worry about that. At least one screw should be plenty fine. I am going to use a 1.5 inch screw instead of just an inch screw to make it a little bit stronger, but just please be careful when you are screwing them on to this electrical mat. Do not hit anything. Now, once you've put on the back, you are essentially done. An optional thing that I like to do is add some sort of wheel. I also have little scrap rectangles that I like to use as just a little bit of topper to give it a little bit more height, also for getting up and down bumps and whatever, but also to give it a little bit more stability. I also like to add a little bit of silicone to help them stay fully secured on when I'm screwing them in. Totally not necessary, but I like to do it, and I have the silicone around, so if you have some, you might as well put some on. Well, it feels like I was here just a few weeks ago to build this guy, but now we are just underneath it and finishing this build. Now, if you're adding a probe, I would suggest drilling a hole in the back of this to slide your probe through and place it around where the baby bin would go. Well, that being said, I have all 30 bins here. We're gonna load them up and see what the finished result looks like. Wow, that price is a lot larger than I thought it would be. To make this baby rack, for the PVC, it cost me $434, not including the cutting cost. The cutting cost is going to go into the 8-foot enclosures I am building. The bins cost me $223.39. And all of the wiring cost me $46.79. That is including shipping and tax. And that still does not account for the thermostat, which is going to cost another chunk of change. But the total comes out to $714.18. I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon members that help me do everything here at All Around Reptiles, including pay for the project that I just built. With that being said, if you want to see some more crazy projects that I'm doing and I have planned for this summer, subscribe.